Could this be the test of the 12-hour golden cross that we've been looking for?
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a very bright, actually, and sunny morning over here on a nice Saturday, Sunday morning. Jesus Christ, I've been up since like 3 or 4 a.m. It's so bright here, it's insane. Anyways, there's plenty to talk about today with that nice little dump dildo party. Actually happening about 1 hour before I woke up, so I missed it myself. However, there's plenty to talk about for this next week's price action. And I should also say, I will not be on Twitch today. Today's going to be a build new computer day so that I can make sure that I stream better, which is going to be a lot more fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Maybe it's just another excuse to buy more computer components, which I seem to be addicted to. But more importantly, Elsa will be on. Her channel is Elsa69. If you want to go hang out there, I'll certainly be in the background, and who knows, maybe Bitcoin might be doing something as well. Anyways, on top of that, I should say that Krown trading application, it's right in front of your very face. It's free. You can go check it out at app.krowntrading.net. Claim your account. And what do we have here? So we do see that the open interest has absolutely shattered about 150 million off the board. So we have been brought back down to the 800 million marker, which does still denote and does still kind of bring in the whole picture that we are still looking at this. We are still looking at that phase change here. But I really want to see a nice interplay between open interest and price action at the critical level that we haven't really been speaking about it, but it's been the one that's been most relevant for the long term, which we'll get into in just a second. Down around the 7,900 to 8,000-ish region. On top of that, the crypto fear and greed index has tipped back down into the neutral zone. Not really too much to say about that, but I would say a nice little healthy retrace there, perhaps. And more importantly, the Bitcoin dominance still hanging out pretty damn high at 67%. I'd actually expect this to go up quite a bit more, especially when Bitcoin starts moving once again, as altcoins very likely to get hurt versus the Bitcoin pairing on any sort of a Bitcoin move here, as they seem to be the more emotional brother of Bitcoin. However, versus US dollar, that's going to be a different story. If Bitcoin goes up versus US dollar, then yeah, they're probably going to generally benefit versus US dollar, maybe not as much as Bitcoin. On the whole, of course, there's going to be a few outliers here and there. And then, of course, if Bitcoin goes down as it just did, well, they're probably going to get hurt even more as well. Anyways, I think that's it for that. Oh, yes, there's one more thing. I do have, a few people have found this one out. I do have a gaming channel here on YouTube titled Total Krown. You're more than welcome to check it on out, but understand that it's like focused on Total War and gaming and whatnot. So I understand that's not gonna be for everyone. A few people asked me Bitcoin questions there. It's not the place. This is much better venue for that. But yeah, man, for anyone interested in that, as I'm sure that there's a few gamers in the Krown, of which I am the biggest nerd of them, then you're more than welcome to come check it on out. Let's go look at some Bitcoin price action right here. And what do we see? Bitcoin coming all the way down to the 12-hour golden cross, as we've been saying for a while now. I didn't say that this was going to happen yesterday or anything like that. It's not like I fucking called the move. I called it. No, bullshit, man. But as far as tradable zones, we did initiate the moves that made that more or less, the sort of trajectory to go. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's go down to the lower term time frames to kind of wrap up what price action we were looking at yesterday. So yesterday I said we were likely to come back down to about 9,400-ish region, 9,350. And if we actually break that area on the blue box, I'd be looking for a move all the way back down here to the blue box of Destiny, 8,600-ish region, which Bitcoin seems to have found its footing at. Now, I do want to reference a few different things here, though. So what happens now? Well, you do see that Bitcoin's essentially tested all the way down to this long-term trend line, coming in all the way back from March 13 lows at around 4,400 and has multiple tests on it. So technically speaking, this is theoretically, one massive rising channel. However, do I get automatically bearish after a move like that to the downside? Actually, no. As far as my long-term view goes, this is the situation that we are postulating to happen this coming week, with Bitcoin coming back down and testing wherever the 55 exponential moving average is on the 12-hour golden cross right here. which happened on the 3rd of May. As you can see, green 55, purple 200, just for reference. Anyways, we've been kind of going over the past history of this to look at some sort of interplays between this. And what do we see? The last time that we had an actual example of a death cross going in a golden cross was actually at a rather similar price point right in over here, January 19th. You see Bitcoin actually, once it gets the 12-hour golden cross right here, it does come down rather hard to the tune of about some like 10% if I go from last high to next low, which we can look at for the same right here as well. Yeah, 10.5%. And then Bitcoin actually catches its footing right around the 55 and then marches its way up to 10,500, a $2,500 rally. And if we go back to the cross before that, back on over here in 2019, April, almost a little bit more than 1 year ago now, same sort of thing. Gets a golden cross, big, massive, girthy green dildo party to the upside. And then what happens? Spends about a month going sideways here, tests down to the 55, reaccumulates, and then boom, a massive move up from about $5,000 to $14,000. Not bad. And then if we go back further in time, same sort of thing. I don't really want to go through all of them right now because there's more important things to be focusing on, but you're more than welcome to go check it out for yourself. So this is what I believe that if we are going to see something like that, we just saw it right now and actually did buy along that area. When I woke up, we were still kind of hanging around down this region. So I did have a nice little, or I did put a little bit of a position in there. For full disclosure, I do want to be forthright with that. But more importantly with this, the reason why I like that trade is not because it's 100% guaranteed to work out. No, any fucking trader knows that that's never a scenario. You never have a scenario where you're 100% guaranteed that the trade's, going to go in your favor. No, but what makes a good trade is that it has a good risk reward potential, a nice, easily defined area of risk management, and also, just based off of whatever technical analysis edge that you're using, if that is going to be your edge. Anyways, let me get rid of this pop-up right there. There we go. Okay, beautiful. Anyway, I have YouTube Premium, and somehow I still get advertisement. How does that work out? I have no idea. Anyways, so as it stands right now, I actually do hold on to a long-term bullish view as long as we are especially closing above the 200 exponential moving average on the 12-hour dildo time frame. Why is that? Well, first and foremost, it is pretty much aligned with this long-term uptrend line that we've been coming in from, again, March 13th. But also, as long as we're above there, the golden cross on the 12-hour is the play as far as I look at it. And I do think that we probably get reaccumulated right, somewhere in this region in the mid to low 8,000s. And then assuming that we don't break below our current low, whether it's even a wick, although a wick probably doesn't do it. I really need to see a closure below. A closure below the 12-hour 200 exponential moving average is very obvious. Although I think that you could equally use a lower time frame, a 4-hour dildo closure, especially below the 200 simple would be obvious, but even the 200 exponential moving average on this time frame as well probably gets it too. Now, for the more aggressive traders, they'll just wait for another wick low below below this 8100 tick on Mexico here. But overall, my point is that there's very nice, easily defined areas to kind of come up with a documentable trade, which is what makes a good trade. So at the end of the day, it's not guaranteed to work out, but I do like the risk reward potential, and using options can very easy. Below this area right here, I'm very happy to switch to long-term bearish once again and target a move back down to like 6,000, below, maybe even below 6,000. But we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. And at the end of the day, I'd rather just I'd let price action tell me what to do before anything else. Of course, going over here to the weekly, what have we essentially done? Bitcoin's come back down and tested this cross as well. The green 55 and the yellow 21 exponential moving average, which I think actually even the 10 simple is above now too. This might also be in the way. Nope. Oh, sorry. It's like way below there, which actually does give us a nice target to the downside. If we do take out this weekly low at 8,100, actually would target the 10 simple on the weekly. I'd be very interested in buying put spreads anywhere below about 7,900, especially, but even 8,000 probably does it. But overall, do I think that we're just kind of testing this area right here? For now, yeah, I actually do think so. It's very, very common to see. However, again, just offers up a nice standardized way to manage risk on a trade like this. Now, same thing on the daily dildo golden cross. It's almost there. It's about 2 days away, assuming that Bitcoin doesn't break below 8,000. Again, just adds another layer to that in the same region. And same thing for the 2-day dildo death cross as well. The 2-day dildo golden cross right here, testing down to the 21 exponential moving average and still ending above the 200 simple. That would also be another way that I could manage this one going forwards. And as long as the 2-day is especially closing above that 200 simple at about 85 or a little bit below 8,500 right now, a few ticks below. I'm not necessarily macro bearish. Now, the second that we close below there, do I start to get macro bearish? Yeah, actually I do. As you can see, the 200 simple on Bitcoin for the 2-day dildo time frame has gotten price action more or less right over the long period of time, not just with price action relationship to the moving average, but the slope of the moving average more importantly as well. So anytime that price action is above and it has a positive slope, there's your bull markets, all the way going back here to 2012 essentially. Whenever it gets a negative slope and price action is below, bad, bear market, or if you're short, very good. But you get what I'm saying. And then same thing over here, and then same thing more recently right on over here. So you can imagine that if we actually do lose a 200 simple once again, it very likely will start to actually tip over to have a downward slope, which would be pretty damning here. But we've never not played out a bear market without having a negative slope on that and price action being below. Those two components always do produce a net or not necessarily a net, but 6 months to a year plus of downwards price action. So there are a few things significant about this last rejection though, just because technically speaking, we do have another lower high in here on the on the macro as it stands. If you're looking at a 2-day or a 3-day, that is as it is a lower high. So we are still kind of maintaining the downtrend from this trajectory. And the real question is, are we going to be setting in a higher low and everyone's just going to get scared out of their positions right now, or is this actually a big turning point? And realistically, it all comes down to what I kind of opened up this video with. As long as Bitcoin's above the 12-hour the 12-hour pivot right here, I'm not macro bearish. I can't really be macro bearish on this. But the second that we start to break below it, then yes, I would be macro bearish. Maybe macro bearish is the wrong word, but I would be looking for a significant downside, and I'd maintain a massively open mind with this price action as it is. But just going over the higher term timeframes, what we are here, let's check out the monthly. The monthly just came back down and tested around the 10 simple. I don't really see any major issues with that. As it is, even if we came down to test the 21, that wouldn't be too problematic at 75.50ish region. It's problematic from a higher time frame perspective, not necessarily in the monthly. The monthly, if it kind of stalls out, and ends somewhere around here by the end of the month, that would be concerning for sure. But it's really the weekly that I'd actually think is going to get this price action more or less right in the easiest way possible. Assuming that we do close this weekly somewhere around here, somewhere above 8,500 and below 9,000 essentially. Just using this as a long-legged doji, probably does get it right, meaning that if we do take out the low side of it, we're probably going to get continuation down at the very least to 7,000, and probably another small bounce there. And personally speaking, I'd actually be looking for a move down to 6,000 after that, but we'll see it in real time if it does happen. By the same token, to the upside, a little bit more dubious, but any sort of a move above our current high right here, and yeah, we do have an upturn once again, it looks like. So at the end of the day, it's going to take a little bit of patience here, but I do think that it is relevant to say that I actually do think that this could be reaccumulation in this region right here, and especially considering that this dump is happening during a weekend, I'm very skeptical of it. Anytime that I see a move happen on the weekend, like a big move like this, this is certainly a big move right here. Happen on a weekend that is contrary to the week's direction. So the week's direction obviously to the upside and the weekend's direction to the downside. I have never seen follow through post December 2017 when CMEs debuted. The reason for that being, or what I could postulate for that, is the fact that when CMEs ain't trading, it's a lot easier to manipulate price action, if you want to use that term. What I mean, the manipulation is the wrong term, because we're all price manipulators by being in this market, and that kind of brings about the wrong sort of mentality. But what I mean by that is that for the market movers who want to shake people out, it's a lot easier to do on a weekend when there's less eyes on this, when there's less people trading, when there's less just overall, thickness in the books, if you want to call it that. So if you do want to cause a move like this, it's a lot easier. It takes a lot less trading capital, a lot less trading equity to do over the weekend than the weekday. And then during the week, if we want to resume, we can resume. So I do think that actually this probably does get reaccumulated. I do think, however, we are going to swipe down once again again to the 200 on the 4 hour, maybe down around like 8100 to 8200. But assuming that doesn't break, I'd look at that as another opportunity. Will I protect below? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I do think that this is interesting, especially when you kind of look at this as your last consolidation area. Holding this low, still, I think actually fine. We've seen this washout move plenty of times before in Bitcoin land. It's fucking brutal. It's very, very nasty. But that's Bitcoin, baby. That's Bitcoin, and got to wash out some of the retailers before the good old halving, I suppose, of which I am one. I mean, there's technically not even such thing as a professional trader in Bitcoin land because, well, you don't like have to take a test to be a trader. Like when I was a market maker, I had to take a Series 56 test, and you get like accredited and verified by the SEC themselves or FINRA or whoever you're going with. For myself, it was both. So you can actually look me up on fucking SEC broker check, which is kind of strange. It was really weird when people first started to do that, like when I first started doing these streams. But I can also understand like people want to they want to make sure and everything. So fair enough. Not that it should make that much difference. I mean, shit, you can be a market maker that gets absolutely blown the fuck out and lose all your money. It doesn't mean that you're good. It's like this appeal to authority that people put more weight on than actual results. Anyways, okay, so while we are here on the lower term time frames, let's see what we got. 4 hour SOAS coming nice and healthily down. I do like that. Coming around to the bearish control zone now. So let's see if it is going to reaccumulate in this region. I would be looking for a few wicks to be put down somewhere right around here, and then trade mostly sideways. And then during the actual trading week, when CMEs open back up later tonight at, I believe, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, and especially tomorrow morning when New York Stock Exchange opens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, perhaps then we could actually get a move in the opposite direction. I mean, this is going to naturally create a massive gap down on CMEs, and I mean, remember, CME gap is going to be all the way up here at about even well above 10,000, actually 10,085. So, it would be kind of silly of me to say that we're unlikely to pop back up and test at least somewhere around there. Now, of course, if we take out the current low first, and especially close a 4 hour dildo below the levels that we mentioned, then no, I would not. I'd be looking for further continuation of the downside for $1,000 move to the downside first, most likely, and probably even more. Before popping back up and filling that gap. But for right now, I actually do think that I likely think that it actually does reaccumulate in this region and then tries again. CME's chart is going to probably open up somewhere back down around here, which is going to be the 12 hour 21. I would consider that a test of the golden cross right here. It works rather well using a little bit of a crystal ball, which I really dislike doing. So that's terrible technical analysis to do, but it is hard not to think right now. Anyways, whenever I get into that sort of mind frame, it's usually not good. So I will step back from saying anything more. Okay, so what else we want to look at? We've looked at all of that. I've already been recording for 17 minutes, it looks like. 12-hour historical volatility percentile getting a little bit hot here. However, I should mention this: 12-hour Joule did maintain the signal yesterday. So for the people who actually have who have access to this and were and were watching, I know a lot of people in the Discord took a position right around here. I just want to congratulate you. Fucking phenomenally done, getting to move all the way from 96 to, I mean, assuming that you traded this perfectly, which is easier said than done, all the way down to 81. Pretty damn move, but a lot of meat on those bones. So congratulations, good shit there. That's awesome. That's fucking awesome. But I'm trying to see, is there anything else obvious? All lower term time frame historical volatility percentiles is getting very hot here as well. What I'd also be looking for on the 4 hour is maybe like a slightly lower close, somewhere down around the 200x benchmark average, and then bullish divergence to be put in if this is going to reaccumulate and march its way on higher. That's really what I'd want to see next in order to kind of keep that idea alive. 12-hour historical volatility percentile, as we said, is still expanding, except this time expansion comes to the downside, as it sometimes does. 12-hour Stochs, so all the way down, and they will stay to the downside as long as Bitcoin is below 99.33. So that looks pretty damn likely. So at the very least, I do think that at the very best case right now, if you do want to be looking for like immediate upside, I don't think that that's going to be happening. I think it's going to be a range essentially between 9,000 and where we are right now on a closing basis, and then sometime during the week, a little bit later after these things sort of cool off is when I'd maybe be looking for an extension. Now I do want to pull up this as well. So we've been documenting this, the hash ribbons. Well, it's actually not necessarily the hash ribbons that I'm so enamored with, as you know, as I am just the past price actions relationship to the halving itself. So what do I mean by that? Well, okay, well actually there are a couple of things here. All right, so anytime that we do get a buy signal on the hash ribbons, we do see that we actually typically do see a dumps relatively soon after that. Kind of same thing over here as well. This one dumps down a little bit, about 10. It doesn't look like much, but it's actually about a 10% move right there. Yeah, it's 10%. Looks like after getting the buy signal right here, and then marches up to about $3,500. Right in over here, same sort of thing as well. Gets the buy signal, and then immediately, or I shouldn't say immediately, but comes down, relatively hard right there. Actually, maybe not so hard, but about 12% right there as well. Pretty damn good. And then marches its way up from all the way basically 4,000 to 14,000. I mean, nice move. Time before that, if we go back to right over here. We can see that this one also giving you a little bit of a downside right after that before marching its way onwards and upwards to the upside. Same thing right on over here. And again, you're more than welcome to look at this one yourself. This one is of particular interest right here, giving you the buy signal, marching its way up, and then dumping down really aggressively, actually, from top to bottom. That was a 34% move. Same thing right here as well. The low was actually in, but that doesn't mean that you can't have a 30% move to the downside. And so I do think that if the trend is to continue, then this was the test that we were looking for to come back down to the 12-hour golden cross, the two-day golden cross, and even the daily. If it holds through here as well, although it's technically not confirmed just yet. And then also what we've seen in the past with the halving itself, as denoted by this red bar right here. Usually Bitcoin actually does initially come down. You can see that this is the actual halving date in July 2016. And Bitcoin, marched its way up before it. Very, very impressive rally, almost 100% from last low to next high. And then it gets a halving right here. It's pretty much a nothing event, in real time, and then dumps down pretty fucking aggressively, 32.5%. But it sets in a higher low on the macro scale, right around the daily 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average, kind of similar to what we're looking at right now. And then marches its way upwards and onwards. Pretty damn nice. The time before that we actually have this signal, the only other time that we've had a halving, of course, is back on over here, and same sort of thing. Bitcoin does get the halving. And actually, this one's a little bit different. Gets a halving right here and does come down a little bit as well. As you can see, comes down about 10.5% after that signal on kind of like a lackluster thing, but sets in a higher macro low and then marches its way up for a almost 2,000% gainer over the next few months. So that's does 2 times make a trend? Absolutely not. But is it interesting? I think it is interesting. So I would be looking at either this lower 8,000 level on kind of a wick basis, or a 4-hour dildo closure below. Is the 200 exponential moving average going to get it? Is it worthwhile to be more conservative or more aggressive on this? I would say conservative. But that's just me. I'm more of a conservative trader than anything else. I'd say maybe a 4-hour below, like 79.50, if I wanted to be more in line with that. Then yes, I would get macro bearish, and I'd be looking for an overall move down to these lower levels. But until that happens, I do think that is very possible, and actually most likely that Bitcoin goes sideways here, maybe tests a few times back down towards the lower 8,000s, but mostly holds sideways here for the next, day or two, whatever it is. And then later on this week, if it is going to give a try, I would expect another move up at the very least to like 9,300-ish region, and then we'll kind of decide from there. At the end of the day, the levels for the medium and higher term, the levels for the higher term timeframes are still all the same. To the downside, this long-term trend line right here, 7,900. To the upside, this big trend line right here, coming in right around about 10.5, correlated with our last macro high at about 10,500-ish region, which is much less on a weekly closing basis, 10,150 or 10,200, depending upon which exchange that you're looking at. So looking pretty good right there. But as long as we're below there, it's still hard to get excited for like super fun times or anything like that. As we've been saying, if Bitcoin can even just move above our current weekly high, I think that probably also does it for at least continuation up to the next major macro level, which is 11,500. That's the really interesting one, and has been the really interesting one for the last 2.5 years almost now. As you can see, that's where Bitcoin's been getting all of its major rejections. Nice blue box of death and decay in this region. getting your first major 50% meltdown in January 2018, then a double top in February 2018 right there, or maybe even a triple top you call it, because it's like one and then there's two in there on a daily basis. Then another top shoved in there in late June 2019, another top in August 2019. Also the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement, if you can see right here. Let me get rid of this one, it's kind of convoluting it. 0.5 Fibonacci retracement in this region as well. And if we look at it from a volume profile, it would suggest that anywhere above there, it's kind of like a vacuum. No one's really done business above there, so things can really float around. I mean, shit, like things are volatile enough as it is right now, but it's going to get significantly more above that region. So that's really the point where I start to talk once again about 16,000 or 20,000 or even beyond. I mean, at that point, it's a lot different of a look. But overall, it's still kind of far away from where we are right now. Okay, let's go back to the daily. I feel like I'm missing a few things. We are kind of right at the point of control right now, or are we? No, we came down to the point of control last night. Yeah, you can see a tick right, pretty much right on it. So far, okay. And that's really all that I have to say about that. What we can do now is we can go down to the lower term timeframes and come up with ranges. And this one's going to be difficult because a lower term timeframe range is too wide for it to really have any practical use right now. If you are looking for, if you're looking for like a short term range to play out, I suppose the best that I could do right now, which is people are going to fucking laugh at this. But this is the fucking truth, man, at the end of the day. And I do have to be true to my style, but I'd say lower term time frame range is something like this right now, between where we are right now in this blue box, and then we'd have another one right here. A resolution of this range will lead towards a test of the medium-term time frame range. In this case, to the downside, very obviously, that one would be 7,900-ish region. That's where biases really start to change. You can see the volume profile really getting thin in this region as well. To the upside, it's a little bit more dubious. I don't think that this area is going to be as relevant here. This area meaning 9,350-ish region, which I had in yesterday. I don't think that that's going to be as relevant actually. I think it would be this area up here at about 9,600-ish region. That's where I think it'd be interesting. However, I will leave this area marked off just in case, because I'm not all that confident on here on the lower term timeframes. But if we were to close a 4-hour dildo above, let's call it 9,100, then yes, I would look for extension I would look for extension realistically towards about 9,700-ish region. So what is that? That's like a $600 trade. So that's kind of why I think it's a little bit more appropriate to be conservative here. But I would caution towards this area again at about 9,350-ish region, very, very small region. But it does, does it hold weight over time? I don't know. We absolutely shattered it on the way down, and I'd be kind of looking for the same thing to happen if it were to work its way back on up. I don't think it's going to be a resistance on the way back up. I think this area is going to be the resistance, also correlated with our long-term trend line coming in from the $14,000 high right around here, and also let's get this off, and also the volume, the volume profile and the 618 Fibonacci retracement you see in this region as well, all around about 9,700-ish region. So I don't really think that the short term is actually, unless if you got a really good position on these regions right here, I don't think that it's worth playing, just because it can be rather dubious and it's going to require a lot of patience. But as far as the long-term ranges go, I think that they're very clear here, and that's really what I'd be trading for. So we'll see how this one works out. I suppose right now we could go look at expected moves chart. Let's go see what we're doing here. Oh my God, absolutely shattering the fucking earth right there. Let's see. What do you need? Do you need this? Elsa's wanting some salt. Nice one. Okay, so lower price target looks like that's going to be pretty fucking high. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to use 8,100 on a daily on like a daily close, because I think that probably gets it anyways. Although 79.50 for more conservative traders out there, of which I am one of them. For the upside, I'll have 9,100 here. Again, it's really not that helpful for what, I realistically, I don't think that we're going to be breaking either today. And if one does break, it's probably going to be the downside. If the bears want to take control, they actually do it sooner rather than later. Probably needs the next couple of days, and it's going to be very, very fast and aggressively to the downside. That's what I do feel strongly about as well. Other than that, I don't feel too strong about the great, that's sort of the sort of short-term look. But yeah, as far as probabilities go, upside is technically a little bit more likely, but both relatively low. What does that tell us? It tells us that we're going to be ranging here very likely, and I think that the range, as far as the medium-term timeframes, the short-term timeframes, is more or less right. So yeah, let's see. Is there anything else that I want to get out before I post this? I don't think we're going to do too much long-term analysis on this one, just because I do want to get a jump on building this computer, as that's going to make everything else better. So fair enough. But as far as this goes right now, what else can we say? Maybe we could look at some of the other top shitcoins. I mean, altcoins that potentially are showing the way. Yeah, Mr. Buterol looking obviously a lot more weaker than Bitcoin over the last few days, as we said. And we did hit the bottom side target that we actually were looking for as well at 180. If we did break below the 198.5 region, even just tick below 198.5 region that we spoke about yesterday. This one actually the more easy chart to read as it is right now. Now it's the weekly putting in a macro high right here. This is scary. This is actually very scary. And Mr. Buterol actually does have a little bit more of an easier to read chart right now, funnily enough as well. And actually this chart is significantly more bearish too, which is quite interesting. To me, but any sort of a daily total closure below 175 and a half, or sorry, just 175, I'd be looking for this thing to come down much more. 153 and a half region is where I'd be looking towards, and this is just going to look like a continuation of macro downtrend. I mean, this is the real chart for Mr. Buterol. This is an absolute dog shit chart, just with lower lows and lower highs along pretty much the whole history of it since January 2018. I know that there is history before that, of course, but there ain't nothing sexy about a dead heartbeat chart unless if you're into necrophiliism, which well, this is crypto land, so you never know who's out there munging graves. Anyways, let's see what Litecoin's looking like. Litecoin looking significantly more bearish than the two, as we've been saying for a while. This one will almost certainly get the death cross on the weekly confirmed later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Any sort of a close here or lower is very nasty long term. It's hard not to think that this thing doesn't come back down to like 35, 36 bucks. And I don't think I've seen a weekly death cross on the macro, a weekly death cross on any of like the top coins ever in cryptocurrency land. I think this would be the first. Maybe Ripple has one. No, it's actually not as close. And it's mostly because they just don't have enough history, but Litecoin does. So she's kind of leading the way. But does she lead the way all the way down? I mean, this daily is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. But again, Bitcoin's likely going to pick the direction, and then the altcoins are just going to react more or respond more violently. So if Bitcoin does take another leg down, if Bitcoin takes out the current low at 8,100, I'd be looking for Litecoin to settle in somewhere down in like the mid 30s. And Mr. Buterol to come back down. If Bitcoin takes out the current low, I'd be looking for Mr. Buterol to come back down into this pocket here, down in the mid 160s. And then we'll reassess after that. So what else do we want to look at? Nothing's new in traditional markets because we covered that yesterday and it's not trading over the weekend. Other than that, maybe take a quick peek at the Bitcoin dominance, and then that will probably be good for this video. In this video, weekly, I'm still bullish on here actually, but I just don't think that it's ready to break out above this just yet. I need to see a weekly close anywhere above 68, and I would be macro bullish for a move all the way up to past 70%. So again, I still think that altcoins do get destroyed here over the long period of time, but I need to see that closure first. I'd target a move towards a little bit above 70 first, and then this is technically a descending Brownian wedge, so I would likely have a target somewhere up here, somewhere right around the past prior high at 73.25%. So that would be disastrous for most alts versus Satoshi pairing. Let's go check out Mr. Buterol versus Bitcoin pairing. Terrible here, absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I mean, I'm sure Blue Laws are going to say this is a higher low right here. Well, it's also a lower high as well. And the former trend has been your friend all the way going back to June 2017. Very nice. It sounds like a fucking talk show host with that too. It's a weird tone to have. I always want to feel like my tone here is just like how we talk in normal life, because otherwise it's just, I don't know, it just feels strange and feels like a drag. Okay. So anyways, could this all just be what is that trend line coming in from? That trend line's coming in from the log scale, but for some reason it works on the linear scale. That's kind of funny. I wasn't expecting that. Very rarely do you see that, but I think it's just kind of happenstance right there. Okay, so back on a Bitcoin, and let's wrap this bitch up. my main view on this is actually going to be reaccumulation here. I think that this is the test down to the 12-hour golden cross that that we've seen in past iterations, and that is kind of my first look on this. I did buy a little bit below, what was it, like 84.50 or something like that, 8400ish region. Very easy trade to manage. Doesn't mean it's going to work out, and I will be happy to flip short for big positions below about 79.50 especially, but even below yesterday's spike low 8100 is problematic to say the least. By the same token, I'm really just looking for Bitcoin to kind of go trade sideways here. The more sideways is the better for the BULAs, and if they can hold sideways for a few days, I'd be looking for a retest back up towards 9100ish region. And if we do start to close 4-hour deltas above there, I would be targeting back up towards 9700 if that were to happen. That's kind of come in line. That's going to come in line with the long-term downtrend resistance coming in from $14,000 high in June, and a close above there. Technically speaking, I'd be looking for a retest of this current high that we put in, and any sort of move above there, I'd be looking for continuation. Technically speaking, you should say 10.5, but that would be short term. I'd realistically be looking for 11.5 after that. So a nice multi-$1,000 trade there potentially in the making. But for right now, I think it's going to be more or less or at least what the BULAs want here is more or less sideways, quiet, and then maybe later on during the week, if they are going to pop back up, I'll be looking for this to kind of be the short-term gatekeeper for another $600 move, $700 move, where things get interesting once again for the macro for the BULAs. By the same token, to the downside, I think that if bears are going to take control, they do it sooner rather than later. And what do I mean by sooner rather than later? I mean like in these next 2 to 3 days. Extremely likely, if bears are going to take control, that's when they would very likely do it. Other than that, I think it's going to be more or less a quiet day. So I'm going to be signing off now. Take care, and until next time.